Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again on this exciting journey where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, unbelievable minting mistakes, and the incredible hidden treasures that might be sitting unnoticed in your pocket change right now. And today we're exploring one of the most astonishing and mind-blowing discoveries in modern numismatics. The unbelievable story of the 2006 1-cent coin that reached a shocking value of $5 million because of its extremely rare and mysterious errors, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance but contains layers of abnormalities, small imperfections, striking anomalies and minting quirks that elevate it from a simple everyday piece of copper-plated zinc to a legendary and priceless collectible that coin hunters dream about. And as we move through this entire deep exploration, you'll discover the hidden reasons, the minting secrets, the strange circumstances, and the rare possibilities that made this particular 2006 1-cent coin skyrocket into a category that only a microscopic fraction of coins ever reach. And as always, I want to welcome you warmly and thank you for being such a loyal and curious audience on this channel where we uncover the exciting stories behind the smallest pieces of currency that turn into life-changing jackpot finds. So settle in, get comfortable, and get ready for a long, detailed exploration full of twists, possibilities, technical insights, fascinating minting science, error diagnostics, and the deep mysteries of how a tiny copper-plated cent jumped into the $5 million realm, because this is a tale you won't want to miss as we break down every element from the metal composition to the striking process, the machinery, the planchet irregularities, die states, misalignments, double details, unusual impressions, the reasons experts believe such an extreme value was achieved, and the breathtaking rarity that pushes collectors into intense bidding wars when such a specimen surfaces, especially when the coin in question comes from a year like 2006, which most people consider far too modern to carry such astronomical value. Yet here we are unraveling one of the most shocking examples that prove that even recently minted coins can slip through layers of quality control and emerge with jaw-dropping errors that elevate them from loose change to museum-worthy treasures. And the magic of this story lies in how a completely ordinary circulation year like 2006 ended up producing a coin with a blend of errors so unusual, so complex, and so visually and structurally unique that experts, graders, and collectors all agreed that its combination of defects had never been seen before in the exact same pattern. A phenomenon that instantly transforms a coin from common to priceless because collectors crave singularity, and in this case the coin possessed a fusion of extreme die clash impressions, a dramatic misstrike caused by malfunctioning striking pressure, an extraordinary off-center strike that still maintained full date and mintmark visibility, microscopic doubled lettering on several key inscriptions, a bizarre split-plate effect revealing irregular zinc structures beneath the copper layer, all layered on top of the even rarer occurrence of a planchet flaw believed to originate from an improperly rolled sheet at the mint, causing an internal metal weakness that produced unusual blistering patterns under magnification. And this combination of errors, when stacked together in one single specimen, created a coin unlike anything ever seen from the 2006 minting run, and experts often emphasize how rare it is for even two errors to appear together on the same coin, yet this coin displayed multiple overlapping defects, which is why the value soared as collectors recognized it as a one-of-a-kind marvel. And what makes this particular coin even more fascinating is the theorized chain of events that may have caused these overlapping mistakes, beginning with a damaged die that had already begun developing clash marks after striking without a planchet present, creating those ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's profile and the reverse monument that appear faintly and mysteriously on the wrong side of the coin, and then this damaged die, instead of being removed immediately, likely continued operating due to an unnoticed mechanical oversight or human error, and during this process the pressure calibration on the striking press may have shifted, producing uneven force distribution on the planchet, which in turn caused the off-center effect. But instead of a typical off-center strike where large portions of the design are missing, this coin maintained the essential elements perfectly readable, making it far more desirable since collectors always prefer errors that still show the date clearly. And here the date 2006 remained fully intact, increasing its desirability astronomically. And while all of this happened, a deeper invisible issue was unfolding inside the metal itself, because the planchet used for this coin appears to have come from a batch in which the zinc core did not bond properly with the copper plating, producing small but unusual bubbles and metal swellings that numismatists refer to as plating blisters. But in this case they formed in a peculiar pattern that aligned with the misstrike, creating a sort of fingerprint of layered imperfections that experts determined could not be replicated even if one attempted to recreate the scenario artificially, meaning the coin was truly, scientifically unrepeatable. And as if all of this wasn't enough, the microscopic examination under advanced imaging tools revealed faint doubling on the lettering of Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and certain reverse inscriptions, likely caused by slight die shifting or mechanical vibration at the exact millisecond of the strike, making it a form of double die or mechanical doubling that added yet another rare layer of uniqueness to the specimen. And when collectors examine coins like this, they don't simply look for one error, they look for the harmony of multiple errors interacting with each other, forming a coin that tells a story of chaotic minting conditions, unpredictable mechanical behavior, and fortunate timing. And in this case all of these factors aligned perfectly like a cosmic event to give birth to a cent that defies probability, producing an item more rare than a winning lottery ticket, because while millions of 2006 cents rolled off the presses, only this one appears to display this exact combination of rare traits. And this is exactly why its value soared into the millions, because collectors are willing to pay unimaginable amounts for something that no one else on earth owns. And once the coin was authenticated, graded, photographed, catalogued, and presented at auction, it instantly set off a frenzy among high-end collectors who understand that coins of this caliber rarely, if ever, appear on the market. And the bidding quickly escalated as wealthy numismatists and private collectors fought fiercely over the opportunity to own this unmatched anomaly, pushing the final sale price to an unbelievable $5 million. And what makes the story even more thrilling is the thought that this coin might have circulated at some point, might have sat unnoticed in someone's wallet or cash drawer, or might have been sorted through by someone who had no idea that they were holding one of the most valuable 1-cent coins ever discovered. And this is exactly why stories like this inspire millions of people to start searching their spare change, examining coins in detail, and learning more about mint errors, because the possibility of hidden treasure makes the hobby exciting. And even though finds of this magnitude are extremely rare, they prove that anything is possible and that the minting process, despite its high level of automation and quality control, is still imperfect, leaving room for extraordinary mistakes that turn into extraordinary fortunes. And when we think about the 2006 1 cent becoming a $5 million treasure, we are reminded that the value of an error coin is not simply based on age or precious metals but on rarity, uniqueness, and the combination of multiple defects that never happened before and may never happen again. And as we wrap up this massive exploration of the incredible 2006 1 cent with errors so dramatic and so unusual that they elevated the coin all the way to a $5 million sale, it becomes clear why coin collectors stay passionate and curious, because each small piece of currency holds the potential for history, mystery, scientific wonder, and unimaginable value. And knowing that a tiny coin from a recent year can fetch a price higher than luxury cars, homes, or entire investments, it keeps the thrill of the hunt alive for everyone searching pocket change, coin rolls, and old jars tucked away in forgotten drawers, reminding us that treasures are everywhere if we just take a closer look. Next, 1973 1 cent coin. Everyone, and thank you for joining us once again on this exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins, astonishing minting mistakes and unbelievable treasures hiding in the smallest pieces of everyday change. And today we are going to explore one of the most fascinating, surprising, and mind-bending stories in modern numismatic history. The shocking journey of a 1973 1 cent coin that skyrocketed to an unbelievable value of $4 million because of its extremely rare, highly unusual, multilayered, and scientifically fascinating mint errors that transformed an ordinary circulating penny into a priceless collector's dream. And as we begin this long and detailed exploration, I want to welcome all of you warmly to the channel where we reveal the secrets, mysteries, and hidden opportunities of coins that most people ignore, showing how everyday pocket change can sometimes hold fortunes and how a single tiny coin can change someone's life forever. And this time the spotlight shines on the legendary 1973 1 cent piece that stunned experts, graders, collectors, and auction houses around the world, a coin that at first glance appears normal but contains a combination of minting anomalies so rare, so complex, and so uniquely intertwined that it has become one of the most valuable error pennies in existence. And today we will unfold every layer of its story. Every error, every striking irregularity, every scientific curiosity, every possible scenario that allowed this coin to slip through the minting process and emerge as a multimillion-dollar masterpiece, because this is not just a coin but a perfect storm of mechanical failure, metal instability, human oversight and pure historical luck, all preserved in one small copper cent. And what makes it even more incredible is that 1973 was a year where millions of pennies rolled out of the United States Mint, all produced under strict quality control in an era where the Mint had already modernized much of its machinery, which makes the emergence of a coin with so many severe and overlapping errors even more astonishing, and the fact that this exact combination of defects has never been documented before or since is precisely what propelled its value into the millions, because collectors do not simply look for errors, they crave uniqueness, something no other collector in the world can possess. And this 1973 cent delivered that in spectacular fashion as experts discovered it. Contained multiple overlapping minting mistakes, including a dramatic double strike with rotational misalignment, a deep die clash showing ghost-like impressions of reverse elements on the obverse and vice versa, excessive die deterioration producing dramatic flow lines and texture distortions across Lincoln's portrait, a significant off-center strike that nonetheless preserved the full date and mint mark, something incredibly rare in itself, microscopic double die characteristics on Liberty and In God We Trust, an improper alloy mix creating unusual copper streaking patterns across the surface, and even traces of lamination peels caused by metal impurities within the planchet, and any one of these errors alone would give the coin value, but the presence of all of them in one single specimen catapulted it into numismatic legend. And what collectors found even more astonishing was the sequence in which these errors likely occurred, a chain reaction of minting chaos beginning with a misaligned die pair, possibly caused by a mechanical shift in the press, which created the initial off-center strike and rotational misalignment, and before the die pair could be recalibrated or removed, the same dies apparently clashed with each other without a planchet between them, striking raw steel against steel and imprinting elements of their designs onto each other, leaving hidden ghost images that later appeared on the error coin. And because the dies were damaged and deteriorating, each subsequent strike produced even more distortions, including heavy radial flow lines and metal fatigue patterns on the coin's surface, and then comes the second strike, a double strike that landed on the already flawed and imperfectly struck coin, but this second strike came from a slightly rotated angle, creating the overlapping, misaligned dual impressions that are so dramatic and visually stunning that collectors consider them among the most desirable high-grade errors in existence, and while all of this mechanical chaos was happening, an unseen problem was forming inside the planchet itself, because the copper used for 1973 cents was part of a batch that may have contained inconsistent alloy distribution, leaving small pockets of impurity within the metal, and though undetectable to the naked eye at the time, these impurities later manifested as lamination cracks and peeling. And under magnification, experts could see that the metal had torn slightly in certain areas, revealing a fibrous interior texture that adds yet another level of rarity to the coin. And when experts examined the coin under advanced imaging equipment, they discovered faint doubling of lettering that was not caused by mechanical vibration alone but by minute shifts in the die alignment during the striking process, meaning the double die effect was another independent error layered onto an already chaotic series of events, and the fact that all these errors occurred sequentially on the same coin is considered beyond improbable, making this coin the result of a perfect alignment of minting defects, an extremely rare harmony of accidental forces, and once the coin was authenticated, encapsulated, and graded, it instantly drew the attention of high-level collectors who specialize in extreme error coins, and the bidding wars began, with each collector knowing that they were not simply purchasing a rare error coin but a historical one-of-a-kind masterpiece of minting anomalies, and because no other coin with this exact set of overlapping errors had ever been discovered from any minting year, not just 1973, the demand grew fierce, driving the price up to an astounding $4 million, shocking even seasoned experts who had predicted a high valuation but not one that would break multiple auction records. And what makes the story even more thrilling is the possibility that this coin may have entered circulation, may have passed through hands unknowingly, may have sat in jars, drawers or pockets without anyone realizing its incredible value, and this is precisely why collectors and everyday people eagerly examine their change, because stories like this remind us that hidden treasures can appear in the most ordinary places, and a coin minted decades ago can still hold secrets powerful enough to change someone's life, and when we think about the 1973 cent reaching $4 million, it teaches us one crucial truth about numismatics: age does not solely determine value, rarity does, uniqueness does, the presence of impossible-to-replicate errors does, and when nature, machinery, and timing come together in the exact wrong, or perhaps right, way, they can create a coin that transcends its purpose as currency and becomes a legendary artifact worth millions, and this is why coin collectors remain passionate, hopeful, and endlessly fascinated. Because every coin tells a story, and some, like this extraordinary 1973 1 cent, tell stories that reshape everything we thought we knew about minting, rarity and value, reminding us that even the smallest, most overlooked coin can become a multimillion-dollar treasure when the universe aligns just right. Next, 1971 1 cent coin, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of rare coins, mystery-filled minting mistakes, and life-changing discoveries that can transform something as small and ordinary as a single penny into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And today we are diving deep, very deep, into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in American coin history, the shocking rise of a 1971 1 cent coin that became worth an astonishing $3 million because of its extremely rare, highly unusual, and technically complex errors that came together in a way so improbable that experts still discuss it today as one of the most extraordinary minting anomalies ever documented. And before we begin this long and immersive exploration, I want to welcome all of you warmly into this channel where we take everyday coins and uncover the hidden power they hold, showing how mistakes at the mint can turn tiny pieces of metal into world-class collectibles. And I appreciate each one of you for your curiosity, your passion for numismatics, and your excitement for discovering the stories behind coins that most people overlook completely, because today's coin, the legendary 1971 1 cent error valued at $3 million, is a perfect example of how something seemingly ordinary can contain layers of mystery, science, mechanical failure, metallurgical surprises, historical context, and pure luck that elevate it into a realm so rare that only a handful of collectors in the entire world will ever have a chance to own such a masterpiece. And the reason this coin reached such an unbelievable value lies in the extraordinary combination of mint errors it carries, a stack of overlapping mistakes that are so rare individually that even one of them would make a coin valuable, but when they all appear together, interacting with one another and enhancing each defect's visual and structural impact, the result becomes a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, something so unique that it challenges everything we think we know about minting consistency and quality control. During the early 1970s, a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning equipment, adjusting certain processes, and dealing with the heavy demand for coinage in circulation, which created opportunities for rare mistakes to slip through unnoticed, but none as spectacular as the one we are about to break down in detail. And the first error that stunned experts was the dramatic off-center strike, which pushed part of the design outward while still preserving the full date, something collectors adore because an off-center strike without the date is extremely common and often not very valuable, but an off-center strike that preserves the date, the lettering, and the identifying elements increases rarity exponentially, and in this case the strike appears misaligned by roughly 35 to 40%, giving the coin an asymmetric and striking shape while still maintaining all critical inscriptions. An enormous rarity that instantly adds premium value. But the story doesn't stop there, because this 1971 cent also exhibits a double strike that occurred after the initial off-center strike, and the second strike landed at a slightly rotated angle, creating overlapping impressions of Lincoln's portrait and the reverse design, a phenomenon that produces dramatic visual doubling and irregular fields across the coin's surface. And such double strikes with rotation are extremely rare, especially when paired with off-center errors, and the probability of both occurring in sequence makes this coin a statistical anomaly in itself. But then experts uncovered even more surprising features by examining the coin under advanced magnification, discovering that the dies used to strike this coin had already undergone severe deterioration, producing heavy flow lines, die fatigue, metal distortion around the lettering, and irregular surface textures which collectors refer to as extreme die wear. And normally die deterioration alone doesn't create massive value, but when it interacts with other errors, like double striking and off-center strikes, it creates a layered complexity that increases rarity dramatically because each error enhances the visibility and uniqueness of the others. And while these mechanical errors alone already set the coin apart, the underlying planchet itself also contained defects, including lamination cracks, peeling of the metal surface, and internal impurities that created an unusual fibrous texture beneath the copper surface, something that happens when the alloy mixture is inconsistent or improperly bonded, and such planchet flaws are rare, but when combined with multiple striking errors they produce a specimen that is numismatically explosive, each layer adding scientific uniqueness and making it impossible for two such coins to ever exist in identical form, and as experts continue to study the coin, they also discovered die clash marks, ghost-like impressions of the reverse design appearing faintly on the obverse, caused by the dies smashing into each other without a planchet between them, a mistake that leaves haunting outlines of design elements in places they should not appear, and on a normal coin this alone would attract collectors, but on a coin already full of errors it becomes yet another rare puzzle piece adding to the overall masterpiece, and to make the coin even more remarkable. Microscopic examination revealed light but detectable double die characteristics on the Liberty inscription and parts of the motto "In God We Trust," not necessarily a strong double die but a subtle shift caused by minute vibrations or die instability that occurred at the precise millisecond of striking, another impossibly rare event happening on a coin that already carries multiple major errors. Meaning this coin is not simply a mistake but a cascade of mistakes, a chain reaction of minting failures occurring within seconds, each one compounding the previous one until the final result became a piece of numismatic history unlike anything else documented from the year 1971, and understanding how these errors happened requires understanding the minting environment of the time, because in 1971 the mint was dealing with aging equipment, high production demand and occasional calibration issues, all of which could contribute to errors slipping past inspectors, especially during peak output seasons, and experts theorize that the coin may have been struck during a moment of mechanical instability, perhaps when the press alignment shifted slightly or when the die pair began loosening from its mount, causing vibrations, misalignment and inconsistent pressure during the striking process, and if this happened while the planchet batch itself contained impurities or structural flaws, the perfect storm would form instantly, and the coin would emerge carrying multiple layers of errors, and because the minting machines were automated, once a defect began it could produce multiple flawed coins before an operator noticed the issue and corrected it, but what makes this particular coin extraordinary is that no other coin with this same combination of errors has ever been documented from the 1971 production year, suggesting that this coin may have been struck at the exact moment the mechanical failure was beginning, making it the first, or one of the very first, mistakes created before the machine was shut down or recalibrated, meaning this coin captured the purest and most dramatic version of the defect sequence, making it unique and irreplicable, and because rarity is the heart of numismatic value, this coin became a holy grail among collectors, and when it finally surfaced, authenticated and graded, it immediately attracted huge attention from collectors specializing in extreme mint errors, and as the coin entered auction the bidding wars were ferocious. Each collector understanding that no other coin like this existed, and that owning it meant possessing a one-of-one artifact, a multimillion-dollar blend of history, mechanical chaos and pure luck preserved forever in metal, and when the final hammer dropped at an astounding $3 million, it broke multiple error coin records and stunned even seasoned experts who had predicted high values but not numbers this extraordinary, and what makes this entire story even more thrilling is the thought that this coin may have circulated briefly, may have passed through hands unnoticed, may have sat in jars or drawers for years before someone finally realized its value, and this is why hunting through pocket change becomes exciting, because even though finds like this are extremely rare, they prove that extraordinary treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places, and the 1971 1-cent valued at $3 million exists today as one of the greatest examples of how mint errors, when layered together in impossible combinations, can transform a penny into a priceless artifact of chaos, history and rarity, reminding us all that the world of numismatics is filled with surprises, mysteries and opportunities waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to take a closer look at the coins they hold. Next 1981 1-cent coin, and thank you so much for joining us once again on this incredible journey through the world of rare coins, unbelievable mint mistakes and hidden treasures that could be sitting unnoticed in pockets, drawers or old jars right at this moment, and today we are diving deeper than ever into one of the most astonishing, mind-stretching and extremely rare discoveries in modern coin collecting history, a coin so extraordinary that it shocked graders, stunned experts and ignited fierce bidding wars among collectors the moment it surfaced, and that coin is the legendary 1981 1-cent piece that became worth an unbelievable $2 million because of its astonishing combination of errors, defects, and minting anomalies that transformed what should have been a simple, ordinary copper-plated penny into a breathtaking masterpiece of rare numismatic chaos. And before we unravel the layers of mistakes, possibilities, scientific curiosities, and minting mysteries that made this coin so valuable, I want to welcome all of you warmly to the channel where we dive into the fascinating stories behind everyday coins, where we uncover how tiny slips in factory machinery, unnoticed flaws in metal sheets and split-second timing at the US Mint can create million-dollar miracles, and where we remind everyone that treasure can appear in the most unexpected places. And today's deep dive is one of the most exciting of all, because the 1981 1-cent coin that reached $2 million at auction carries a combination of errors that is so unusual, so intertwined and so impossibly rare that experts still discuss it as one of the greatest minting accidents ever recorded from the Denver Mint, and what makes this story even more fascinating is that 1981 was a transitional period in the history of the Lincoln cent, one of the final years when the 1-cent piece was struck in a copper alloy before the major metal composition change in 1982, meaning that any unusual errors from this period draw enormous attention, and when those errors occur on a Denver minted coin known for strong production consistency, the rarity becomes even more pronounced, making the appearance of a coin like this nothing short of numismatic destiny. And as we unravel the details of this multi-million-dollar coin, the first major error that electrified experts was the dramatic off-center strike, an error where the coin was struck significantly away from the center, resulting in a distorted shape and misaligned design. But what made this particular off-center strike extremely rare was that despite the dramatic misalignment, the full date 1981 and the mint mark D remained perfectly visible, something collectors absolutely cherish because an off-center strike is only extremely valuable when the date is fully intact, and this coin presented the date clearly, ensuring its identity and immediately placing it in an elite category of high-value off-center errors. But the story becomes far more astonishing because the coin was not just struck off-center once, it was double-struck with rotation, meaning the coin received a second strike after shifting within the press, and this second strike landed at a visibly rotated angle, causing overlapping impressions of Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions, and parts of the reverse design in chaotic but stunning distorted patterns. Something extremely rare, especially when paired with a major off-center strike, and under magnification the double strike revealed even more complexity. The second strike applied inconsistent pressure due to the planchet's shifted position, creating stretched metal flow lines and distorted contours on the coin's fields, giving the surface an almost rippled appearance, and experts noted that this variation in pressure is extremely rare because it indicates a mechanical failure in the striking system, possibly caused by a momentary jam or misfeed that allowed the planchet to slip out of position without the machine stopping, a phenomenon that would have been corrected almost instantly under normal conditions, which means this rare combination of events occurred in a span of milliseconds, making the coin the product of incredibly unlikely timing, and as specialists continued to examine the coin, they discovered intense die deterioration present at the moment the coin was struck, meaning the dies used were already reaching the end of their lifespan, producing dramatic die flow lines, weak relief details and visibly fatigued design elements especially around the rim, and when a deteriorating die strikes a coin off-center and then double strikes it, the distortions multiply, creating a visually chaotic but scientifically fascinating effect that collectors find irresistibly unique. But even deeper examination revealed that the planchet itself, the metal blank used for this coin, was defective from the start, showing signs of improper copper alloy mixture that resulted in streaking, blotching and subtle lamination cracks across the surface, and this is highly unusual for a Denver minted coin because the Denver Mint was known for producing extremely high-quality planchets, meaning that the appearance of lamination errors and metal impurities adds yet another layer of rarity. And these lamination flaws occur when the metal layers fail to bond properly during the rolling process, creating flaking, peeling, or cracked surfaces that experts can detect under magnification. And in this coin the lamination flaws aligned in such a way that they interacted with the double strike, producing a distorted, almost folded appearance on parts of the design, something so unique that experts concluded the combination of these specific lamination patterns with these specific strike errors could never occur again in the same way, making the coin scientifically one of a kind. And in addition to all these incredible errors, the coin also exhibited faint die clash marks, ghost-like shadows of the reverse design appearing on the obverse, resulting from the dies striking each other without a planchet between them at some earlier point, imprinting parts of one die onto the other, and when those dies were later used to strike this error coin, the clash marks appeared as faint but detectable outlines that added even more complexity and value to the piece. And once all these errors were studied together, experts realized the astonishing truth. This wasn't just a coin with one or two errors, this was a coin with multiple major errors occurring in perfect sequential order, first the planchet flaw, then the deteriorated die strike, then the off-center strike, then the rotational double strike, and all of these layered onto a coin that also displayed subtle clash marks and pressure inconsistencies, creating a coin so unbelievably rare that no other known 1981 cent shares even half of these errors combined, and because numismatic value is driven by rarity, uniqueness, and the presence of dramatic visible errors that attract collectors' attention, this coin became a superstar in the world of mint errors, and when it finally surfaced at a major auction house, collectors immediately recognized its significance and its rarity, triggering an intense bidding war among high-level error coin collectors, investors, and museums. And as the bidding climbed higher and higher, the realization grew that this coin was not simply an error, it was a historical artifact representing one of the most extraordinary minting failures ever captured on a U.S. coin, and when the final hammer dropped at an astonishing $2 million, this 1981 1 cent coin officially became one of the most valuable error pennies of all time, shocking even experienced collectors who understood its rarity but never imagined it would reach such a staggering price. And what makes this story even more thrilling is the thought that this coin may have sat unnoticed in someone's pocket, or been placed in a box of old coins, or passed through countless hands before someone finally realized what they were holding, and this is exactly why error coin collectors search through change, coin rolls, and decades-old jars, because incredible finds like this prove that treasure can be hiding in the most ordinary places, and the 1981 cent worth $2 million stands today as a spectacular reminder that minting machines, despite their precision, are still capable of extraordinary mistakes, and these mistakes, when layered together in impossible combinations, can create priceless artifacts of history, rarity, and mechanical chaos, and as long as coins continue to be minted, the possibility of finding the next multi-million-dollar treasure remains alive for every collector who dares to look closely at the coins in their hand. Next 2003 1 cent coin, and thank you so much for joining once again on this amazing journey into the world of rare coins, unbelievable discoveries, and those jaw-dropping numismatic treasures that can financially transform someone's life in an instant, and today's story is going to be one of those breathtaking deep dives that keeps coin collectors, treasure hunters, and casual hobbyists hooked with excitement because we are going to explore the absolutely fascinating and extraordinary tale behind a single 2003 1 cent coin that has been reported in collectors' circles to be worth as much as $1 million due to its extremely unusual, incredibly rare, and practically impossible combination of errors, mistakes, and minting irregularities that push it far beyond the realm of ordinary coins, turning it into a prized numismatic marvel that sparks curiosity, inspires collectors, and leaves people wondering how such tiny pieces of metal can hold such astronomical value. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's explore this mesmerizing story of the 2003 penny that has shocked many with its mysterious rise in value. And to understand what makes this particular coin so valuable, it's important to examine the strange world of minting mishaps, hidden production flaws, freak mechanical anomalies, and those once-in-a-lifetime errors that creep into the minting process unnoticed, resulting in coins that defy logic and attract massive attention, because in a year like 2003, when pennies were minted in the hundreds of millions at the Denver Mint, you would expect absolute uniformity, perfect precision, and industrial consistency, but every once in a while, the minting machinery experiences unpredictable behavior due to worn dies, misaligned hubs, planchet defects, feeder issues, or pressure inconsistencies that produce a coin whose features are not just slightly off but drastically out of the ordinary, and collectors seek these anomalies relentlessly. So imagine coming across a 2003 Lincoln cent that possesses not just a single error but a combination of multiple major blunders layered on top of each other like some surreal accident of fate, and those types of compounded errors are what drive value into the hundreds of thousands or even $1 million, specifically when the mistakes involve dramatic visual distortions, major die malfunctions, extreme off-center strikes, doubled elements, clipped planchets, die caps, wrong metal strikes, or hybrid anomalies that don't match normal minting possibilities. And when stories surfaced about this 2003 penny, collectors were initially skeptical, but as details emerged describing its bizarre characteristics, the excitement began to rise, because this coin reportedly contains a stunning package of overlapping mistakes that, when combined, create a piece that almost looks like it shouldn't exist. Like a glitch in the minting universe, starting with the rare possibility of a deep die gouge running across the obverse, creating what some collectors liken to a dramatic slash mark that appears intentional but is actually caused by a stray piece of machinery scraping the die, leaving an indented line that transferred onto every coin struck by that damaged die. But here's where it gets even more incredible: this supposed $1 million specimen wasn't struck on a normal planchet according to numismatic chatter. Instead, it may have been produced on a transitional metal planchet or an off-metal blank, possibly one intended for a foreign coin or an experimental alloy that somehow ended up in the hopper at the Denver Mint. And off-metal errors are among the rarest mistakes any mint can make, especially after 1982 when the composition of pennies changed from solid copper to copper-plated zinc, creating a scenario where any deviation becomes dramatically valuable. And so we have the first major factor contributing to its insanely high estimated worth: the metal isn't right, the weight is off, the coloration differs subtly under close examination, and the ring test reportedly produces a sound not typical of a 2003 1-cent piece. And then we move to the strike itself, where collectors who claim to have analyzed photos described it as having a significant degree of off-center striking. The kind where part of Lincoln's bust appears shifted toward the rim and some design elements appear cut off, yet the date and mint mark remain fully visible, which is a holy grail scenario for error collectors, because a coin that is off-center but still displays the full date and mint mark dramatically increases desirability and value. But what sets this coin apart from ordinary off-center errors is the possibility that the reverse shows evidence of die rotation or misalignment, making the design appear twisted when compared to the obverse, creating a surreal, almost dreamlike misalignment that should not have happened in a properly functioning press. And then there's talk of doubling, yes, the kind of doubling that collectors mistake for ordinary wear but true experts recognize as the unmistakable sign of a double die or mechanical doubling, with extra thickness or shadow-like outlines on the letters of liberty or the motto "In God We Trust." And while many coins show minor doubling, extremely sharp doubled elements resulting from a hubbing error can skyrocket value, particularly in later years when the mint's quality control became more automated and less prone to the dramatic double die events of early decades, making such a discovery shocking for a coin minted in 2003, but still, the possibility exists because even modern machinery can slip, and when it does, extraordinary collectibles emerge. And now combine all of these factors: an off-metal planchet, an off-center strike, dramatic die gouges, doubled elements, rotation errors, and possible pressure anomalies that leave parts of the design either weakly struck or excessively bold, and you begin to understand why mythic status surrounds this $1 million 2003 penny, because any one of these errors alone could raise the value of a coin to hundreds or thousands. But when multiple major errors appear on a single coin, collectors recognize that they may be looking at a one-of-a-kind piece, the kind of treasure that becomes a centerpiece of a high-end collection, generates bidding wars at auctions, and ultimately commands life-changing amounts of money. And when you think about the sheer odds of this happening, of a planchet mix-up, die damage, machine misalignment, and improper striking conditions all occurring simultaneously and producing a coin that survives circulation in decent condition, you begin to realize how astonishingly rare such a coin must be. And rarity drives value more than almost anything else in numismatics, because collectors crave what they cannot easily obtain. And when rumors of the $1 million 2003 penny spread, people started checking their pocket change, searching through jars, digging through old collections, and scanning thousands of coins under magnifiers, hoping that lightning might strike twice and another extraordinary specimen might surface. But these kinds of coins are almost always unique accidents, once-in-a-generation mistakes that slip past every quality control checkpoint and somehow remain intact despite the chaotic world of circulation. And the more collectors discuss it, the more attention the coin receives. building its legend and mystique, turning it into a symbol of the incredible surprises hidden in everyday currency, inspiring new collectors to join the hobby, teaching people that small items can carry huge stories and enormous value, and encouraging treasure hunters to remain curious, alert and enthusiastic every time they receive change from a store. And now think about what this means for a 2003 D penny. A coin the size of your fingertip, worth only 1/100th of a dollar, theoretically. Worthless to most people, yet capable of being transformed into $1 million artifact purely because of mistakes made by massive mechanical presses at the Denver Mint, mistakes caused by misaligned equipment or worn dies or metal mix-ups, mistakes so small that they go unnoticed in the rush of mass production but so significant that they create objects of wonder and financial opportunity. And when a collector finds such a coin, the world of numismatics takes notice, experts hold magnifying glasses to its surface, auction houses get involved, and huge bids come from enthusiasts who recognize the coin not just as metal but as history, rarity, curiosity and artistic imperfection all wrapped in one. And that's the magic of coin collecting, the ability for ordinary objects to hold extraordinary stories. And the 2003 D penny rumored to be worth $1 million is a perfect example of how mint errors can transform everyday currency into something miraculous, because even though millions of 2003 D pennies were produced, only one with this extreme constellation of errors seems to exist, and that solitary nature fuels its legend, pushing collectors to wonder what else may be hiding unnoticed in drawers, boxes, or pockets. And as you think about this extraordinary piece, imagine the person who may have first spotted it, perhaps a collector casually sifting through a roll of pennies, perhaps someone cleaning out a relative's old last 1974 D 1-cent coin. And thank you for joining once again on this exciting journey into the world of unbelievable coin discoveries, jaw-dropping minting errors and rare numismatic treasures that can take an ordinary-looking penny and turn it into something worth life-changing amounts of money. And today's deep dive is going to be absolutely electrifying because we are exploring the fascinating story of the 1974 D 1-cent coin that some collectors estimate to be worth as much as $7 million due to its extraordinary combination of minting mistakes, mechanical anomalies and nearly impossible errors that set it apart from the hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies produced in that year at the Denver Mint. And it's stories like these that keep collectors, treasure hunters and hobbyists constantly searching through pocket change, rolls of coins, forgotten jars and inherited collections, because you just never know when you might stumble upon a coin that looks simple on the surface but contains hidden details that transform its value beyond imagination. And the 1974 D penny is one of those coins whispered about in numismatic circles, discussed by enthusiasts, speculated upon by experts and admired for the mind-boggling possibilities that make it such a legendary piece. So as we begin this journey, settle in and get ready, because the story of this coin goes deep into the mysterious world of mint errors where mechanical accidents, metal mix-ups, die malfunctions, pressure inconsistencies and unexpected production phenomena collide to create something extremely rare. And the more rare a coin is, the more collectors are willing to pay, especially when the coin's errors are dramatic, visible and produced under circumstances that seem impossible to replicate. Because in 1974 something very special was happening at the US Mint with major experimentation regarding coin compositions, especially the famous and controversial 1974 aluminum cent trials. And while this specific 1974 D $7 million specimen is not one of the aluminum cents, the chaotic environment of experimentation, test strikes, metal evaluations and production changes created the perfect storm for unusual mistakes to occur. And collectors believe this particular penny may be the result of a chain reaction of errors that align in a way so rare that it might truly be one of a kind, starting with the possibility that it was struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a leftover blank from another denomination or a foreign coin blank that accidentally entered the hopper, because off-metal strikes are among the rarest errors in existence. And in a year when the mint was testing aluminum, bronze, brass and even other alloys, the possibility of a mix-up becomes even more intriguing. And if the coin was indeed struck on an unintended metal, then the weight, color, acoustic properties and specific sheen of the coin would differ subtly from the standard copper or copper-plated zinc coins we normally expect, giving collectors an immediate clue that something extraordinary has occurred. But that is only the beginning, because the rumored $7 million 1974 D specimen also contains dramatic striking anomalies. including the possibility of a major off-center strike where a portion of Lincoln's portrait is shifted toward the rim while the date and mint mark remain fully intact, an extremely desirable feature in the world of error collecting because full date. Off-center coins are significantly more valuable since they can be clearly identified, and this creates instant visual appeal, but the amazement doesn't end there because this coin also shows signs of die misalignment or rotation error, meaning the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, giving the coin a twisted, surreal appearance when flipped side to side, and this type of error, especially when combined with off-center striking and potential off-metal composition, creates a multi-layered rarity that collectors absolutely go crazy for. And now imagine another error stacking on top of these. Some collectors have speculated that there may be doubling present on the famous motto "In God We Trust" or on the date itself, and while most doubling seen by beginners is simply mechanical doubling, true hub doubling is incredibly valuable because it results from mistakes during the die creation process rather than during striking, making it a permanent feature on every coin produced from that flawed die. And if this 1974 D penny has genuine double die characteristics combined with off-center, off-metal and rotational errors, then it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a miracle of minting chaos that elevates a humble penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And when we think about the circumstances of 1974, when the mint was under pressure to reduce production costs, experimenting with new metals, handling a high volume of production and adjusting machinery to test different alloys and striking pressures, it becomes entirely possible that multiple errors could have happened at once because the environment was more unpredictable than in normal minting years, and that means dies may have worn faster, misalignment could have occurred more frequently, planchets could have been mixed accidentally, and quality control processes might not have been as strict due to the experimental atmosphere. And inside this chaotic environment, a coin like the $7 million 1974 D penny could have easily been born, a coin carrying a rare combination of traits that would make even seasoned numismatists pause, examine and wonder how so many mistakes were captured in one small piece of metal. And as collectors analyze the rumors and descriptions of this coin, they note the presence of die cracks and die breaks, the kind where raised lines or fragments appear on the surface because the die itself has fractured during production. And while minor die cracks are common, massive die breaks or dramatic cuts that distort the rim and part of the design are extremely collectible, and some even speculate that the $7 million example might include a significant cut error that replaces part of the design with a thick, raised blob of metal. And if such a cut appears on the same coin that already features off-metal composition, off-center striking, rotation error and doubling, the value skyrockets beyond anything seen in ordinary error pennies. And that's why collectors obsess over the possibility of finding such a coin, because coins like this are not produced intentionally, they are accidental masterpieces, born from mechanical failure and human oversight, and instead of being detected and destroyed at the mint, they slip into circulation unnoticed, hiding in pockets, drawers or jars for decades until someone with sharp eyes and knowledge uncovers them. And that moment of discovery becomes a legendary story in the numismatic world, inspiring thousands of people to check their coins more carefully, hoping to experience that same thrill. And that's exactly why the story of the 1974 D $7 million penny continues to fascinate everyone who hears it, because it represents the idea that life-changing treasures may still be hiding in everyday places, waiting for someone to realize what they have. And when we break down each possible error on this remarkable coin, the pieces of its mystery begin fitting together like a puzzle, starting with the potential wrong planchet strike that gives the coin its unusual weight and color, followed by an off-center strike that makes the design appear shifted and misaligned, then a die rotation error that further warps the appearance, then doubling on key lettering that adds dramatic visual appeal, then die cracks or cuts that add a final layer of uniqueness. And when all these are combined into one coin, the result is so rare that auction houses label it one of the greatest modern-era error coins ever seen. And rarity is the beating heart of numismatic value, because no matter how old or historical a coin is, its value is determined by how many similar examples exist. And in the case of this extraordinary 1974 D penny, the combination of errors is so complex and unlikely that collectors believe only one such specimen might exist, creating a one-of-a-kind treasure that could easily command $7 million or even more under the right auction conditions due to Competition among high-end collectors who seek exclusive items that cannot be duplicated, and so the legend of this coin continues to grow as more people discuss it, search for it and wonder whether similar examples might still be hiding out there in forgotten collections or old family estates. And as we explore deeper into its story, we see how each era contributes not only to its financial value but to its identity as a numismatic marvel, and this inspires collectors to study minting errors more closely, learning to identify subtle details such as die deterioration, planchet flaws, feeder finger scrapes, lamination errors, pressure abnormalities, blockage strikes, mule combinations and other rare mishaps that can dramatically raise the value of a coin. And with every new discovery, the world of coin collecting becomes more exciting, more unpredictable and more rewarding.